I never thought a 6-year-old could destroy an entire family with just 11 words and a single piece of paper. Yet that is exactly what happened at our family reunion last July, when my daughter, Rosalie, walked up to my cousin Jenny, carrying something that would change everything. But before I tell you what happened, let me back up for a moment. My name is Nayin. I am 34 years old, a mother of 2, and the person my family has always called the peacekeeper. You know the type? The one smoothing over arguments, carrying desserts to gatherings, and writing thank you cards for thank you cards. My husband Derek is 36, a firefighter who possesses a rare gift, the ability to stay calm when everyone else is losing their minds. Together, we have 2 children. Theo is 8, obsessed with dinosaurs, able to recite facts about the Jurassic period like a walking textbook. Rosalie is 6 with pigtails and a gap-toothed smile that melts every heart she meets. Then there is my cousin Jenny, who is 38, married to Preston, the investment banker, and the mother of twins Addison and Blake. Jenny is the one who somehow has a perfect blowout before breakfast and fills her Instagram feed with carefully staged photos of her family, dressed in matching linen at the beach. She has been the golden child of our family since childhood, and she never lets anyone forget it. That afternoon, our parents' lake house in Michigan shimmered beneath the kind of July sunlight that makes the water sparkle like diamonds. The smell of Dad's famous barbecue ribs drifted through the air, mixing with the scent of Mom's apple pie cooling on the windowsill. Children shrieked with laughter from the dock as they splashed each other with cold lake water. 50 relatives had gathered 3 generations of Caldwells, pretending for one weekend that we all actually liked one another. On the surface, it was picture perfect, but Jenny always knew how to turn perfection into chaos. I was in the kitchen helping Mom prepare her legendary potato salad when Jenny's voice carried in through the window. She was holding court on the patio, swirling her wine glass as if she were the star of her own movie. Some of us actually research our partner's genetic history before having children, she declared loudly, making sure everyone heard. Preston and I did full ancestry profiles, medical histories, genetic marker tests. We knew exactly what we were bringing into this world. My mother's hand froze over the celery she had been chopping. Through the glass, I could see Derek's jaw tightening as he stood near the kids. Jenny's voice grew stronger, sharper, like she was performing. Look at Nadine's children. Sweet kids, really, but Theo has green eyes, and no one in Derek's family has green eyes. And Rosalie's hair, its texture doesn't match either parent. Then came her laugh, high-pitched and artificial, the same laugh she had perfected in high school. Her kids don't even know who their real father is. The words hit me like a slap. Relatives whispered behind their hands. My brother Cameron's mouth fell open. Aunt Gloria tried to hush Jenny, but only weakly, the way she always did. Uncle Pete stared into his beer bottle as though it held answers. My children were right there. Theo's face crumpled in confusion as he looked back and forth between Derek and me. Mom, what does Cousin Jenny mean? Dad is our real dad, right? His voice sliced through the air, and I could not answer. Rage and humiliation surged through me so powerfully I could barely breathe. But then something strange happened. Derek was not angry. In fact, he was almost smiling. It was the same quiet, knowing smile I had seen only once before, when he had already set up a camera to catch our neighbors stealing packages. He bent down and whispered something into Rosalie's ear. She nodded with grave seriousness, the way she did when given an important mission, like feeding the goldfish or fetching his boots. Then she skipped toward the house, her pink backpack bouncing on her shoulders. Derek, what are you doing? I hissed, but he only took my hand. Trust me, he said calmly. Sometimes people who throw stones need to check their own glass houses. Jenny was still going now, bragging about tracing Preston's lineage to the Mayflower boasting about pure bloodlines and warning how she could never be careless with her children's future. And then Rosalie came back. She marched across the patio like a tiny soldier clutching her backpack with determination. She stopped directly in front of Jenny, looked up at her with wide brown eyes, and said the words that would shatter Jenny's perfect world. "Cousin Jenny, Daddy told me to ask you about your secret sister." Then my 6-year-old daughter reached into her little pink backpack and pulled out a folded birth certificate. The reunion went completely, utterly silent. The Caldwell family reunion was supposed to be sacred. For 40 years, every July we had gathered at my parents' lake house in Michigan, a sprawling property my grandfather built with his own hands after returning from Korea. The house stood proudly on 5 acres of prime waterfront, its private dock stretching out into Lake Charlevoix with a boathouse that held 3 generations' worth of fishing stories, first kisses, and whispered confessions. It was the place of my childhood summers, the backdrop of every family milestone. Jenny and I had spent countless days there together, only 4 years apart in age, often mistaken for sisters. We caught fireflies in mason jars, painted each other's nails with polish stolen from Aunt Gloria's bathroom, and swore friendship vows while knotting embroidery thread into bracelets. Back then, Jenny was fun, messy, unbothered by scraped knees or tangled hair from too much swimming. But everything changed the year she met Preston Whitfield III at her sorority formal. Suddenly, Jenny discovered designer handbags, charity galas, and the right way to pronounce quinoa. By the time she married Preston in a ceremony that cost more than most people's homes, she had transformed into someone I barely recognized. I stood as her maid of honor in a bridesmaid dress that cost $2,000, watching my cousin vanish behind layers of perfection. My path had been very different. Derek and I married in my parents' backyard, with wildflowers instead of imported orchids, my grandmother's wedding dress instead of Vera Wang. We both started out as teachers, though Derek later became a firefighter for the stability and summer schedule that would allow him to be with the kids. The family hierarchy had quietly shifted over the years. At the top sat Uncle Pete, Jenny's father, a man who made his fortune in commercial real estate and never let anyone forget it. Aunt Gloria floated beside him, always impeccably dressed, always slightly dulled by her nerve pills. My parents held the middle ground: Dad, the high school principal; Mom, the nurse, steady, respectable, the ones who actually kept the lake house running and the reunions organized. And then there was Grandma Lucille, 89, sharp-eyed and sharp-tongued, living year-round in the guest cottage. She knew every secret, every scandal, and she had never been afraid to let her cutting observations land exactly where they stung the most. The reunion always followed the same script: Friday night pizza, Saturday barbecue, Sunday leftovers. But this year was different. Jenny had spent weeks on the family group chat, showing off photos of her twins' exclusive school acceptance, a European vacation, Preston's latest promotion. "Cameron," my brother had texted me in disbelief. "Did you see Jenny bought the twins matching horses? Actual horses for 9-year-olds. By the time we all arrived, tension was thick in the air. That Saturday morning, she was relentless, critiquing Mom's fruit salad for not being organic, bragging about her European-trained nanny, suggesting Rosalie might need her ears pinned back before quickly adding, "But I suppose not." Everyone notices these things. Derek had stayed unusually quiet, helping Dad at the grill, pushing Rosalie on the tire swing Grandpa had hung back in 1982, and playing catch with Theo. But I caught him whispering with Grandma Lucille more than once, both of them glancing at Jenny, shaking their heads. The patio was set perfectly for the barbecue: 3 long picnic tables with red checkered cloths, mason jars of wildflowers. The kind of image Jenny would have posted online with a caption about family being everything. But instead, it became the stage for her cruelest performance yet. She accused me of trapping Derek with another man's children, her voice cutting the summer air like a blade. The potato salad I had just made turned to ash in my mouth as relatives shifted uneasily in their seats. Even when my mother tried to stop her, Jenny wouldn't let go. Fueled by her third glass of wine and the power of an audience, she grew louder, harsher, pointing at Rosalie's hair. Theo's eyes, every feature she claimed, didn't match. My father slammed down his beer bottle in anger, but Jenny only pressed on, insisting she had proof of her own family's perfect lineage. She was still talking when I felt Derek's hand squeeze mine under the table, not in rage, but in reassurance, as if he were saying, "Just wait." Theo wandered over from the kids' table, his dinosaur t-shirt smeared with ketchup, his small brow furrowed in confusion. "Mom, why is Cousin Jenny talking about Dad? Is something wrong?" His innocence pierced through the poisonous air, but before I could speak, Derek's voice cut in steady as stone. "Nothing's wrong, buddy. Cousin Jenny just likes to talk." Jenny laughed, then sharp and brittle, the sound of glass shattering. "See, this is what I mean. Lying to children instead of being honest with them. My twins know exactly who they are, where they come from." I traced Preston's ancestry back to the American Revolution. His great-great-grandfather signed the Declaration of Independence. Actually, he was a bootlegger who changed his name. Grandma Lucille remarked dryly from her chair in the corner. "But do go on, dear." Jenny's face flushed, but she powered forward, her voice rising with self-righteous fury. "The point is, we have documentation, proof. Some of us actually plan our families instead of hoping for the best." Cameron, my brother, spoke up for the first time, his tone flat. "You're drunk. Sit down before you say something you can't take back." "I'm not drunk. I'm honest." "There's a difference." Jenny snapped, her eyes blazing as she turned to me. "And honestly, I think Nain trapped Derek with someone else's baby, and he was too nice to question it." The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the children down by the dock had stopped their games, their laughter replaced by the heavy weight of adult cruelty. My hands shook as I rose, ready to take my children and leave, ready to sever every tie this family reunion was supposed to represent. But Derek gently pulled me back down. His whisper was calm, almost soothing. "Wait. Just wait." Uncle Pete finally broke his silence, his voice gravelly. "Jennifer apologized to your cousin. Now." "For what?" Jenny shot back, her tone defiant. "For saying what everyone's been thinking. Look at them, Dad. Really look at those kids." Theo's jawline, Rosalie's nose. They don't match. Tears streamed down Aunt Gloria's face, her mascara streaking. "Jenny, please. This is family." "Exactly," Jenny said, her voice rising nearly to a shout. "Family means we can talk about the fact that my cousin's children might not be her husband's. Jesus, Nain, you dated that Mitchell guy right before you married Derek. The timeline is suspicious." But Derek wasn't angry. He wasn't even shaken. He rose slowly, his expression calm, almost amused, like he knew something no one else did. "Jenny, you seem very concerned with family bloodlines," he said evenly. "Someone has to be," she snapped. "Interesting," Derek replied, "because last month, while helping your father clean out the attic for the renovation, I found something fascinating in an old filing cabinet." Uncle Pete's fork clattered against his plate. "What are you talking about?" His voice trembled. Derek's gaze shifted to Rosalie, who had been quietly coloring at the corner of the table, her wide brown eyes taking everything in. "Rosie, sweetheart," he said softly. "Remember what Daddy asked you to get from the house?" Rosalie nodded solemnly, stood, and skipped toward the house with her pink backpack bouncing against her shoulders. Jenny opened her mouth to fire back another cruel remark, but the words died when she realized the crowd was no longer with her. For the first time, her confidence faltered. Jenny tried to laugh it off, the sound, brittle and unconvincing. "Oh, what now? Is Derek going to wave around some fake document? Maybe a photoshopped picture? This is pathetic." But Derek remained standing, shoulders squared, his posture calm and unshakable, the kind of steadiness that came from years of walking into fires without flinching. His voice was steady when he asked Jenny, "You talk so much about family history, but how much do you actually know about your mother's life before she married Pete?" Aunt Gloria's face went white. Her hand gripped Uncle Pete's arm so tightly her knuckles turned pale. "We should go, Pete," she whispered frantically. "Get the car keys." "No," Uncle Pete said, his voice strange and hollow. "No, let him talk." Jenny folded her arms across her chest, trying to cling to her arrogance, though her voice wavered. "My mother came from a good family in Connecticut. She went to finishing school. She met Dad at a charity golf tournament when she was 19. 20, Derek corrected softly. She was 20, but what about when she was 17? That was when Grandma Lucille rose from her chair, her cane tapping firmly against the patio stones as she stepped forward. Her sharp blue eyes cut through the air like glass. "It's time, Gloria. You've let this child become a monster with her judgment and cruelty. She needs to know the truth." "Mom, please," Aunt Gloria whispered, tears streaming freely down her cheeks. Jenny's bravado crumbled. Confusion flickered across her face. "What truth? What are you talking about?" And then Rosalie returned. Her little pink backpack bounced against her back as she marched across the patio with the fearless determination only a child can carry. In her small hands, she clutched a manila folder, its edges yellowed with age, the paper inside worn thin from time. She held it out to Derek, like she was delivering a sacred message. "Here, Daddy," she said proudly. "I got it from the special box in your office, just like you said." Derek took the folder, kissed the top of her head, and whispered, "Thank you, sweetheart. Go sit with Mommy now." Rosalie climbed into my lap, her warm little body trembling with excitement, not fear, while my own heart hammered so violently I thought it might break my ribs. I had no idea what Derek was about to reveal, but as I watched Jenny's face pale, shifting through emotions like a broken slot machine, I knew it was something that would cut deeper than anything she had dished out. Derek opened the folder, his voice calm, almost sorrowful, but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Your mother," he said, looking directly at Jenny, "had a baby when she was 17. A little girl born at St. Mary's Hospital in Hartford on March 15, 1986. Jenny's head jerked back as though she had been struck. "That's impossible," she said, but her voice cracked. "My mother would never, she always preached purity, waiting until marriage proper behavior. Your mother was human." Grandma Lucille cut in firmly, a frightened teenage girl who made a choice that haunted her for 38 years. Derek lifted a yellowed birth certificate from the folder, the faded ink trembling slightly in his hand. "Baby girl Piton. Born March 15, 1986. Mother's name, Gloria Ann Peaton. Father unknown." Uncle Pete sank into his chair like a man deflated. Aunt Gloria broke into wrenching sobs that shook her entire frame. "I was 17, she gasped. "My parents said I had no choice. They sent me away, told everyone I was at boarding school. I had to give her up." Jenny staggered backward, her face ashen, her perfect composure crumbling. You had a baby before me." Uncle Pete's voice was weak, almost a whisper, as he stared at his daughter. "We were going to tell you, Jenny. First when you were older, then when you got married, then later still. But there never seemed to be a right time." Jenny shook her head violently, her voice climbing higher with panic. No, this isn't real. This can't be real." But Derek's voice, calm and steady, left no room for doubt. The baby was adopted by a family in New Haven. She grew up to become a social worker. Her name is Soledad Martinez. She kept her adoptive parents' name. "This is insane," Jenny whispered, her eyes wide with horror. I have a sister. You do, Derek said evenly. And she's tried to contact you 3 times in the past 2 years? Jenny's face drained of color. She clutched at the patio railing like the ground beneath her had vanished. That woman. The one who kept calling my office saying she had family business to discuss. I had my assistant turn her away. She told me she was just some scammer. Derek pulled out his phone and scrolled deliberately. January 10th this year, your assistant wrote, Miss Whitfield has reviewed your request and determined your claims of family connection are unsubstantiated. Please cease all contact. February 23rd. Miss Whitfield does not associate with individuals who cannot provide proper documentation. March 15th, on her birthday, Jenny, your assistant replied that further attempts would be considered harassment. Jenny's voice broke into a scream. I didn't know. How was I supposed to know she was telling the truth? Because she did tell you, Derek said simply. In her first letter, she explained everything. She was born at St. Mary's Hospital to Gloria Peaton. She included her amended birth certificate, adoption papers, everything. Your assistant forwarded it all to you. You responded, and I quote, This woman is clearly after money. Handle it. For the first time all afternoon, Preston spoke, his voice low, but cutting through the silence like a blade. Jenny, is this true? Did you turn away your own sister? Jenny's flawless makeup had streaked into rivers down her cheeks. Her voice trembled broken. I didn't know she was my sister. But before she could defend herself further, Derek held up his phone again and swiped to a photo. He turned the screen outward so everyone could see. This is Soledad Martinez, he said. She's a social worker in New Haven. She has a master's degree from Yale on full scholarship. She runs a nonprofit that helps adopted children reconnect with birth families. She's married to a public school teacher and has a daughter named Isabella. The photo showed a woman with warm brown skin, curly dark hair, and a radiant smile that seemed to shine right through the glass of the phone. She looked nothing like Jenny's polished blonde perfection, but she radiated authenticity in a way that made the contrast brutal. Jenny's voice cracked into a whisper. She's Hispanic. Gloria's grandmother was Puerto Rican. Grandma Lucille announced, her voice hard as steel. Something her parents made her hide, something they were ashamed of. But blood always tells, doesn't it, Jenny? The very bloodlines you are so obsessed with. Aunt Gloria lifted her tear-streaked face, her voice hollow. My mother made me bleach my hair from the time I was 12. Made me stay out of the sun. Told me never to mention my grandmother. When I got pregnant, when the father was a boy from her neighborhood, they said the baby would ruin everything. That she'd be too dark. Too obvious. A stain on the family image. My mother's voice cut in cold and sharp. So you gave your own daughter away because of her skin color? I was 17, Gloria wailed. I had no choice. You had a choice for 38 years? Grandma Lucille snapped. And Jenny, you had a choice when Soledad reached out. You chose to reject her because she didn't look like she fit your country club image? Jenny sank to her knees on the patio, the birth certificate trembling in her hands, her perfect facade collapsing into dust. Jenny's voice was ragged, rising almost to a shriek as she clutched the crumpled paper. Where is she? Where is Soledad now? Derek glanced at his watch, his voice even. She's at the coffee shop in town. She comes every year during reunion weekend. She sits there hoping maybe this year someone will want to meet her. She's been doing it for 5 years. Jenny's face twisted in anguish. 5 years. My sister has been 20 minutes away for 5 years, every single reunion, Derek confirmed. And she's not been alone. Grandma Lucille has been meeting her secretly. So has your father. Uncle Pete's confession came out like a wound splitting open. I couldn't abandon her twice. Jenny turned to him in disbelief. "You've been meeting her, my sister, without telling me?" Uncle Pete's shoulders sagged, his face lined with years of silence. "I've met Soledad for coffee once a month for the past 3 years. She doesn't ask for money. She doesn't want anything except to know where she came from. She wanted to see family pictures. She wanted to know if she had siblings. I told her everything, Jenny. How proud I was of you. How successful you'd become. I showed her pictures of Addison and Blake. She was thrilled to know she had a sister-nephews. She never once said a bitter word about being given away. Not once." Jenny's eyes filled with tears, her body trembling, as if her carefully built world was collapsing brick by brick. She turned to Derek Mascara, streaking desperation raw in her voice. "Call her. Please call her. Tell her I want to meet her. Tell her I'm sorry." Derek was already dialing. The patio was silent except for the ringing echoing through the speaker. Then a warm, gentle voice answered. "Derek, is everything okay?" Soledad, Derek said. "You're on speaker? Jenny knows everything. She wants to meet you." There was a long pause on the line, then the sound of muffled tears. "She does." Jenny snatched the phone from Derek's hand, her voice breaking apart. "Soledad, this is Jenny. I'm your sister. I am so sorry. Please, can you come here? Can you come to the house?" We all heard her sister's tears on the other end. "I've been waiting 5 years to hear your voice. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Those 15 minutes felt like an eternity. Jenny sat on the patio steps, clutching the birth certificate, while Aunt Gloria wept beside her, trying to explain between sobs. Preston took the twins inside away from the storm. The rest of us sat in stunned silence, waiting for a stranger who was not really a stranger to walk into our lives. Finally, a car pulled up and every head turned. A woman stepped out. Even from a distance, the resemblance to Aunt Gloria was undeniable. In her bone structure, the tilt of her chin, the quiet strength in her posture. She wore jeans and a blue cotton shirt, her curly hair pulled back in a ponytail. There was nothing flashy about her, nothing staged, and yet she was radiant in her simplicity. Jenny stood slowly, her hands trembling, and walked toward her. Two sisters, separated by 38 years of silence, by lies, by rejection, met in the middle of the lawn. Jenny's voice cracked as the tears streamed down her face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know." "You couldn't have known," Soledad said softly, her own eyes wet. "But I'm here now. We're here now." They embraced, and for the first time that day, the air felt lighter. The entire family watched as decades of secrets began to dissolve in that single hug. Jenny clung to her sister as if she were drowning, and Soledad was the only shore within reach. When they finally pulled apart, Soledad turned to the rest of us, her voice gentle but steady. "I know this is a shock. I don't want to intrude on your family reunion." "You're not intruding," Grandma Lucille said firmly, her cane planted like a command. "You're family. You've always been family." From the car stepped a girl about 16, bright-eyed and confident, with the same high cheekbones and wide-set eyes Jenny once had before years of perfectionist polish. "This is my daughter Soledad," said beaming with pride. "Isabella, meet your Aunt Jenny." Jenny froze, staring at the girl who looked like her own reflection from long ago, before the nose job, before the bleached hair, before she had reshaped herself into someone else's idea of perfect. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "She looks just like my school pictures." Tears ran freely down her face as she reached out and pulled her niece into an embrace. That evening, the long patio tables were pushed together to make room for 2 more place settings. For the first time in years, Jenny wasn't performing. She wasn't flaunting her children's achievements or posting curated photos. She sat quietly watching. Watching Soledad help my mother serve dessert without being asked. Watching Isabella laugh with Rosalie and Theo as they learned a clapping game from the community center where she volunteered. Watching her own twins gravitate toward their new aunt, drawn not by obligation, but by warmth. Later, Jenny found me by the dessert table, her eyes red, her voice low. "Nayan, I owe you an apology. What I said about your children, about Derek, it was cruel. And it was wrong. You were projecting," I told her simply. "You've been so obsessed with bloodlines and legitimacy because deep down you knew your own family was built on a lie." She nodded, tears falling again. "Soledad forgave me instantly. Can you?" I looked at her, stripped of the armor she had worn her whole life, finally human in her imperfection. "We're family, Jenny. That's what family does." As the sun dipped over Lake Charlevoix, painting the sky in streaks of pink and gold, Rosalie tugged on my sleeve, her little gap-toothed grin bright. "Mommy, did I do good today? You did perfect, baby," I whispered, kissing the top of her head. "You helped Cousin Jenny find her sister. Daddy says sometimes people need help seeing what's really important." I glanced at Derek, then my husband, who had orchestrated the entire reveal, not out of cruelty, but out of a fierce sense of truth and justice. He caught my gaze and gave me that same quiet, knowing smile. "Daddy's pretty smart," Rosalie said, giggling. "And Mommy, now Cousin Jenny knows all families have surprises. Just like you always say, everyone has a story we don't know about." That night, the Caldwell family reunion became something it had never been before, honest. We shared stories, long buried, confessed truths that had weighed on us for years, and for the first time in 4 decades, we were real with one another. Jenny learned that while she had spent her life scrutinizing everyone else's authenticity, she had been denying her own sister's existence. The DNA she worshipped carried a heritage her family once tried to erase. And the perfection she flaunted was as fragile as the smile she wore in every carefully staged photo. Sometimes it takes a 6-year-old with a birth certificate to remind us that family isn't about bank accounts or pedigrees or tracing lineage to the Mayflower. It's about showing up even when you've been hurt. It's about forgiveness even when it feels impossible. It's about truth even when lies would be easier. And sometimes, just sometimes, the secrets we bury have a way of surfacing at exactly the right moment, delivered by a little girl in light-up sneakers who still believes the world can be fair. If this story touched you, let it remind you that families are not built on perfection, but on truth, courage, and forgiveness. If you've ever carried a secret judged too harshly or longed for reconciliation, share this story with someone who needs it. Leave a comment with your own experience, give this video a like if it moved you, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that prove honesty is always more powerful than a lie. Together we can remind the world that real families are made not of flawless images, but of imperfect people willing to love each other anyway.